Tired of the hype about living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Hey there, and welcome to this episode of Your Ultimate Life, the podcast dedicated to helping you create a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy by serving with your gifts and your life experience. I'm stoked to have a special guest today, Stacey Hall. Stacey, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's a joy to be here with you.
So we were chatting just ahead of time, and you talked a lot about frequencies and, vibrational things and energy and other things that some people consider woo-woo, but it's really the building blocks of life. I'm going to start with a question that I love to ask to start with, and I don't want you to be modest. So if I ask you, tell me how Stacey is adding good to the world.
Well, Stacey is doing her best to live up to what she promised God. You and I were talking before. I had not a near-death experience, but a true epiphany experience. And I had been in bed for 2 years and 3 months with a debilitating illness created by first emotions, then the mental process of breaking down the frequency, and then that led to the physical. And in the situation that I was in, I begged God to help me heal my heart, get past those emotions, because I knew that would then heal everything else, and it did. And so each and every day, what I'm doing is teaching people how to raise their vibration, to stop dwelling on limiting beliefs, either first to know that they have them, but rather than dwell on them, just to raise up your vibration as quickly as you possibly can to get to the state of enlightenment, which sounds a little woo-woo, but is actually a scientific place in our universe. It's got an actual energy and vibration to it. And to know that it exists, that we can live there, and when we do, things work out. And the physical body works, the emotional body works, the mental body works, and we feel satisfaction.
So I love that, and I love the single-mindedness. She said, I'm working every day to do that. Talk a little bit about how you ended up in a place. You can share to whatever level you want to. How did you end up in a place where you had dwelt on low frequencies, negative emotion, negative thoughts and feelings so much that it put you in such a critical physical place for, like you said, a couple of years?
Well, I'm going to say that I bought into other people's stuff growing up. Okay, so I have wonderful parents. My father's passed. My mom and I have a great relationship now, but they were not the happiest, most positive people. And so the people they surrounded themselves were not the happiest and the most positive. They did their best, as everybody does. And because of that, I had a belief system that I didn't know I was living inside of. And that meant that I was at a particular vibration. And I'm sure, I'm going to say your audience probably understands the concept. And when I'm going to be sharing this with other people, scientists have identified vibrational frequency of energy and of thoughts. And so I was at a particular vibration. And because I was there, I kept attracting the same kinds of people. So because that happened, I kept feeling like this was the world. There was no other world. There was another world for other people who were happy, successful, doing whatever they were doing. But this is what I got born into. Does that make sense?
It does. And what it sounds like if I walk into a room and I'm negative or angry or hurt, or I'm showing some negative thing, that energy exudes off of me, and it isn't going to attract the happy people in the room. They're not attracted to that. So what you're telling me is you had a circumstance around you where people lived in the idea of this is all I get. or this is, I'm making up words. You didn't say
Yeah,
those, but
no, you're right,
some level
right
of
there.
frequency, which is equated with an emotional state of this is limiting, this is it. And so that's what it attracted, just like you would if you walk in a room and you're really happy, it attracts a different group of people than if you walk in a
Mhm.
room and you're really grumpy. So that's a
Right.
really simple example. And you lived in that and owned that. And we do that because we're taught practically from the cradle that we're not good enough. Grades and friends and contests and sports and personal problems and, self-consciousness and all the stuff. And so you lived in that universe for a long time. That's what I heard.
Yeah. That was my world. And what scientists have come to realize is, okay, the physical body, it stays healthy when it is above 68 megahertz of energy overall. But we, through thoughts, through food, through actions, through the energy we live in, can lower that vibrational energy. And that's what kept happening to me. Day after day, I was lowering it and lowering it and lowering it. And when we get to about 52, 54 megahertz, that's when disease starts happening. Okay. And all of this has been scientifically proven. Johns Hopkins University has a machine, as do other university hospitals have machines to measure the vibrational frequency. Now, I didn't know that when I got ill. I can tell you now, having done all the research, well, not all the research, doing a lot of research over 20 years, I know that's what happened. And if you were to ask me, how did I change? I'd be happy to share that with you,
Well,
but
that
that's
would
how
be
I got
important
well.
because I'm certain that most people go through life like I did for a long time and like you did with the idea that whatever's going on, that's my life. Like I can't
Yeah.
do a lot about it. And the crap that's around me, sometimes good, sometimes not, that determines the quality and experience that I have. And so they're going to think, well, if I got struggles, it's somebody else's or something else's fault. And so when you say, I realized that I had something I could do about that, is sort of the genesis of this idea of change. So please.
Okay. Well, and yes, it's sort of that phrase of it's the hand I was dealt for
Yeah.
this life.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
people say.
Yeah.
Like, okay, because everywhere you look, people are in the same boat, right?
Yes.
Right. Except over there. Over there, those people got dealt better. So that's where I was. Got ill, was in bed 90% of the time for 2 years, a little
Wow.
more. And I can tell you that this is what changed. And this is going to sound, well, there's no other way to describe it, but I know you understand, and I'm sure your viewers will too.
If they do or don't, it doesn't matter. This is just your story and
Well,
I
it's
love
my
it and I want
experience,
it.
and I'm saying,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure people understand this.
Yeah.
So I used to stay away from television completely, except for 1 hour a day for a show that used to make me laugh because I had heard that laughter is good for the soul. Pick that up somewhere. And right after that show ended, the news would come on. And so usually I'd turn it off right away so I didn't see any negative news. One day I didn't get there fast enough. And the first story was about a murder. It sent me over the edge. I turned off TV, but I was mad. Now I was mad because I was so ill that I couldn't walk my dogs with my husband. I wasn't well enough to cook meals. My husband was basically taking care of me for 2 years. And
Well,
I couldn't figure out what I had done so badly in the world that I would be, and I saw, God bless you, I saw this as being punished. I was being punished in some way. Like, this is ridiculous. And I just started yelling at God. Like, I believed in God. I just didn't know how I had gotten him mad. And I said, that person gets to have good health well enough to go kill other people. But I'm sitting here after only trying to do my best, stuck in bed. What the heck? You can only imagine I was cursing.
yeah,
Okay.
sure.
And I was yelling because I didn't care anymore. And I basically just said, why don't you just take me now? What's the point of this life for me? And all I can
Wow.
tell you is, I said, go ahead.
I just said, wow. I can imagine, let's put it that way. I can imagine the frustration and, screaming at God, what's the matter with me? What the heck? Over? Yeah, go ahead. Fabulous.
What? I mean, you get to let people go out and murder, rape, do. And what did I do that was so bad? And in the middle of my screaming, you know how you can just, right now, there's ambient noise around us. You can hear like fans and heaters and, the refrigerator, outside noises. All of a sudden, everything went quiet. And I'm like, did I just cut? Because I was yelling loud. I'm like, did I just break my eardrum? So I started talking. I was like, no, I can hear myself. There's no sound. And then all of a sudden, and I can just tell you it was an energy that I could hear what the energy was saying. And it said, we hear you. I'm like, okay, now I'm crazy. Now I'm hearing voices. Now this truly is. And we might as well just lock me up. When my husband was out shopping, the dogs were away from me because I was yelling. And I'm like, when Bill comes home, he's going to have to take me to an institution, I guess. And then the voice said, keep watching. We're sending help. And then all of a sudden, the sound just came back on. Like everything just started up again, motors and everything.
Wow.
Like,
so everything disappeared for you except that energy, which captured all the senses of your body. And it said, we hear you, we're sending help. Keep watching.
Yeah, we're sending help. That was it. And then this peace came over me. 3 days later, somebody invited me to a class about how to raise your vibration. And that began an opening and opening and opening and opening and opening. And since that time, I became a certified aromatherapy coach because plants, of course, when they're taken care of in the proper way, have a high vibration. I started learning about frequency medicine. I became a certified natural therapies coach. And then I became a certified medical Qigong instructor and also learned about Reiki and healing touch and all sorts of things along the way. And in the last year, there have been breakthroughs in frequency being tuned into little metal stickers that you can have access to, that you can put on nutrition, you can put on what you're drinking, you can put on your body. This doesn't have the sticker, it's actually metal tuned. That raises the body's frequency, the brain, and each of the body's organs to their optimum frequency. I'm 67. I have more energy than I had when I was in my 20s. And my mood, everything works. And now I'm able to help other people understand how to raise their frequency through their thoughts, through their actions, through what they put in their body, what they put on their body. And I'm so grateful. I'm out of bed and I truly have more energy than most of the people I know who are half my age.
So that's a wonderful story, and it says a lot of things. It says that the divine exists and it pays attention to us and is willing to give us things that we need. It also says that, you had to choose, keep watching. And so you went to the class and, not only, all that learning didn't happen to you. You had to say, yes, I'm going to go learn this.
Yeah.
I'm going to say,
yes.
Okay. And so sometimes people think when they want the divine or somebody to intervene, they want it to come with an easy button or in an Amazon box on the front door, right? And it doesn't happen that way. There is a process of learning and growth that you went on the journey for how many years?
Well, it's been 20 so far, and I'll keep on going. And what changed within me, I talked about energy, but what changed within me is as I started to raise my frequency and I was happier, as you said before, I started releasing people And I didn't have to do anything really. It was a little painful at the beginning because they just didn't want to be, those negative people didn't want to be around me anymore. They thought I was weird. But in the gap, other people started coming in. I started having conversations with people on social media because it felt good to me to be in this positive place. My world opened up, and now I just don't have drama in my world. I just every day I'm bringing in more and more positive people, and I have the energy. Every Monday, I do a gathering for people who want to keep their energy high, no charge, and we do resources and tips and little exercises to show folks how they can also be shifting out of their environment into a new one and have new people come in that will
So I'm
support
going to
them.
ask you, yeah, I'm going to ask you later toward the end. I want you to be sure and tell people where to find all that. Uh, and also other stuff that I'll ask you. So that's fabulous. And something I take from that is as you healed yourself or allowed the divine help that came to heal you by choosing to do the work or learn the things and switch what you were eating, wearing, being, thinking, switch all that to allow yourself to be in a higher state. Now you have this yearning, which you're following to help other people, to share it, to spread it, to give, to lift. Isn't it interesting that when we are blessed, we seem to be built to have this natural yearning to love and bless others?
Yes. Yeah, that's it. I call it through alignment in myself to enlightenment. And you and I talked to you, my metaphor, all it has been for years, for these 20 years, has been a lighthouse because I'm aligned and my light is going out to help other people in the darkness find a safe way. And this is to me what blessing people is to be a lighthouse in the dark. And there's a lot of people in the dark right now.
There is. And the majority of people live in sort of either self-imposed victim mindset or learned helplessness or some state of blaming externalities instead of taking any responsibility for taking the actions that you took to begin healing processes and to do the changes that we have to do to allow those things to have effect in our life. I have a question for you. You mentioned your husband, Bill.
Yes.
Are you still together?
Oh, yes.
How many
And
years have you been together?
well, I'm telling you this, we met and were engaged 3 weeks later, married 4 months later, and we've been married 32 years, 32 and a half actually right now.
So that is, in and of itself, that is a spectacular achievement in this day and age when relationships are fragile and temporary. So wild congratulations for doing
Thank you.
that. What was Bill's thought about you being ill? Like, obviously, your leg wasn't broken. There was no brokenness that could be assigned like that. Like, he's a hero too, in my mind.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
To
beyond,
hear this
beyond.
story. So I want you to tell me a little of this from Bill's perspective. What did he see? And I realize you're
No,
appropriating
we've
his
talked
thoughts.
about it.
Yeah, what
Yeah,
did
we've
he
talked about
see?
it.
What did he feel like? How did he experience both the illness, the metamorphosis, and this growth?
Well, I can first off, some people might be saying, well, wait a second, how did you meet such a wonderful husband 32 years ago when you're changed didn't start for 20 years? And I'm going to say it was a gift from God. And that we would need a 3-hour chat to explain how all the synchronicities is like God brought him into my life to help me through this process. He is a gift to me. And in many ways, I'm a gift to him. But it was how it all occurred. That was a miracle. And he watched me be miserable for all those extra years before this epiphany occurred. And he would tell me, he would say to me, why are you hanging out with these people? Why are you giving more of yourself? Because that was one of a lot of people will relate to this. I saw potential in other people. And instead of going into myself to bring myself up to what I wanted to be, I thought that we were supposed to be helping other people. Of course, I was helping from an empty bucket, but I would see what other people weren't seeing about themselves and try to help. And of course, they didn't want the help. And so it was this constant wanting to help, being in resentment, wanting to help, being in resentment. And then when this occurred, I'm not going to tell you that Bill was always wanting to stay in the marriage, because it was difficult for him to
I
be
can
there.
only imagine, and I would not be surprised that there was all kinds of struggle associated with that, because there would be. I mean, but he saw you were in this mode of helping others and then resenting because they don't change, and you're serving, as you said, from an empty cup or an empty bucket, and that would be additionally draining. So you're not full to start with. You serve more, and it becomes more and more empty, and then the resentment comes, and that cycle is no question would make you sick. And it also made him whatever it made him, but it created some struggle. So keep going.
Very much. And I'm just going to say that he's a very strong person within himself, always has been. And when he made a commitment to the marriage, it was a true commitment. That said, it wasn't always easy. And I did have to at least treat him, not dump on him. So at the beginning, he didn't know whether to trust it or not. Some things, in order to be, well, you heard about all my certifications, they cost money to do them. And I wasn't bringing money in. He was. So huge gift. That was my commitment, that if we together agreed that I would spend the money, that I would pull everything I could out of it. And that's what I've done. I've kept my word to him. Things have improved. Our marriage has been wonderful for a very long time. I learned techniques for being able to express myself. And now I'm not in that cycle anymore, so it doesn't even come up. We laugh a lot more. He's now going through some of his own, as he's getting older, not horrendous physical things, but some chronic issues. And many of the solutions I found, I'm able to help him with now. So, we went through the cycles, that always at the core, we remember what's most important in the world to us. And if it feels ever like we are coming from opposite directions, then we stop and we go, okay, let's come back to the center and then work our way back out this way. And I'm very grateful, and I am blessed, and I know that we are soulmates.
So there's a lot of really important things there that I just want to repeat or pick apart a little. It was a divine blessing to start with. That resonates strongly with me, because those that know my own story know that the woman that I married to was also brought in a divine fashion. It's an incredible story, but not for this episode. But anyway, so that resonates with me strongly, as well as the struggles that that he would have gone through, especially when it involves money, spending a bunch of money. All this other stuff has happened. How do I know any of this is going to do any good? And yet clinging to the original commitment that you made to each other to be together. And that, again, is not only noteworthy, but heroic in my mind, because having a commitment that you both agree to take precedence over other things is really powerful. And then your ability now to not only create money, now that you have these things that you have healed in yourself and you can help others with, but also to help him with, is just a testament to longevity, when people normally these days, the standard is give up in 5 minutes. If it's harder than anything, 5 minutes ago, I'm done with this. And so I honor that completely. That's a fabulous story. I want to move now. Or do you have more to tell me about anything more about Bill? Or is that?
Well, he's a great man. I will say that. And he really is. He's long enduring. I will say that He was in it for the long run. I was in it for the long run. And there were times, maybe the smartest thing to say here is there were times when neither one of us could afford to leave. And I used to think, I think that's God's way of making sure we don't give up on each other. Because if we had both had plenty of money to have our own homes and all of that, who knows what would have happened. But we were in a situation where it was important that we learned how to live with each other inside the confines of what we could afford. And so that led to ways of us appreciating and respecting each other, and in addition to loving.
I love that. I love that. And that's true. We have no idea what the Divine's playbook is. And a lot of that we learn after the fact, a year or 2 or 10 or 20 or 50. So fabulous. So I want to talk about the work that you do now with people. So now that you went on the healing journey, you were blessed with a divine partner who stuck by you through thick and thin, and you've described a little of that, and people can make up whatever they want about the details, and they will, and that's fine. So now you're on the other side of that, creating things. Tell me about the work you do with people. I asked you to start with how you add good to the world, and you said a little bit of a description, but let's dive in more. Like, tell me how you help people who are stuck in low frequency, who through repetition of negative thoughts, feelings, beliefs, circumstances, the whole mess, end up believing this is all I get, I suck, I'm stuck. All of the words that we know in the personal development world. How do you help somebody that comes and says, I've had enough, I need some help?
Okay. Well, first off, I love that you said they come and ask, because somebody has to be willing. That's what I learned. I no longer go help people just because I can see. I think it's like a hairstylist who can, go just wherever they go, they can look at somebody's hair and know whether it's good or not good, right? But they keep their mouth shut. Well, now I keep my mouth shut. So that's number one in regards to whether I think somebody's saying something that could help, unless they tell me they want support. For many, many years, I have been considered a sales success strategist. So I work with now everybody. And for many, many years, my focus has been on people who are either sales professionals or entrepreneurs who are not making sales despite hard work, doing everything they can. And what I've helped them understand is that if they're coming at it, if they're in a vibration of shame from the past or fear or concern or whatever limiting belief could be, then they're not going to make sales. So they have to be in alignment with their core values. They have to be in alignment with what they're selling, and that has to be in alignment with their values. They have to be in alignment with the audience they know they can serve, and they have to communicate in a way that helps that audience know that they care. So I've been doing that for many years. It's what most of my books are about. But in doing that, I now have been expanding to help they say your audience isn't anyone and everyone. Well, that's true, except my audience are people who were in the place or are in the place that I used to be. That everywhere they look, it's not what they want. And there is a very easy way, very easy. It's ridiculously easy the way the universe has been set up. And you know this. That once you're willing to see a different perspective and trust in that perspective, you can raise yourself up. And it's as easy as getting on a plane and going from San Diego to New York or vice versa, or any place you want to go. If you want to get out of the vibrational energy you're in, you can. I call it flying on the freak, meaning flying on the frequency. And I did not invent this, and it's not coming out of my crazy head. Einstein, this was this true research. He wrote, if you want what you want, then you have to be at the vibrational frequency where it's at. And he said, it can be no other way. This is not a philosophy. It's the way the universe was set up. And that's the true law of attraction, is frequency. It's the law of frequency, not the law of attraction. And it's as real as the law of gravity. And I just think that is the most amazing thing in the world. And I just want people to know this.
So I'm going to go back to the sales part first, because one of the things that most people object to about healers, coaches, all that stuff is they think, and maybe it's their experience, that all this healing stuff is in the woo-woo space and it doesn't really deal in reality, but meaning real, tangible bank account, dollars in the pocket results. But you told me, and I agree with you, and I understand it, that your work was with sales people who weren't meeting sales targets, which is about as hardcore, cash in the bank, real results as it gets. And you said the solution was you're either coming out of fear or negativity, you don't believe in the product, so there's a mismatch, and people can feel that, or you're showing up needy. Oh, I need this client, and that energy is creepy. I had a mentor once that coined the phrase needy is creepy, and I don't think he invented that, but it's, And so what you were helping them do is to understand their own values, whether or not they were living their own values, whether or not they were selling or hawking things that they were behind, that they believed in, whether or not they understood their audience and could connect with their needs, whether or not they believed that the product or service actually filled needs that people had, all of which carries truth. It's on the frequency of authenticity and truth. And you were helping them realize, look, if you want cash in the bank, you got to get through a through line of truth from who you're being to who they're being, with what you're selling in the middle, that it meets some real need. And that is what you said, and I agree with it. And I want people to understand that there's this hardcore connection between who you're being, this frequency stuff, and the cash in your bank account. Did I say that right?
Oh, beautifully, fantastically. And what I'm going to say, my fifth book, my latest book, is Selling from Your Comfort Zone. And most people think, because, there's a lot of myths that I break open in that book. One is that the comfort zone is our lazy place. It is not. Where we feel comfortable is where we know what we stand on and what we stand for. And I'm bringing it back to the lighthouse again, alignment.
Yeah.
What do I stand on is my values. What do I stand for is what I want to create in the world. When I know that, I have power. My light is shining. How could that be a lazy place at all?
No,
what
it's
I
not.
want to do,
I love it. Yeah. So now you said you've expanded beyond just the sales piece, and the huge changes. Before, you were trying to help anybody that you saw was in need, and now you're saying you have to want this. And given what you went through to change your state when you had that divine intervention, you had to go do a bunch of work, and that included negotiating with your partner, spending a bunch of cash, taking risk, and doing all the things that were required, crawling over broken glass, doing the work to change your vibration. You went and did that work. You're telling people, look, if you want to change some circumstance in your life, you got to, it's in quotes, but you got to crawl over the broken glass required to change your frequency. And it isn't.
I'm actually going to say that's the beauty. I did do all of that. But now with this breakthrough in science and frequency, people don't have to crawl over the broken glass anymore.
Good. Tell me more about that then. Good.
Okay. Well, that's the beauty. We don't need to go for certifications. We don't need to do 20 years of what I did, because there's been these breakthroughs. This is a tuning fork. We didn't have an agreement that I could talk to you about products. And you're asking me, so I'm going to go ahead.
I'm going to ask you anyway. What do you do, and how do people find you? And so tell me all about your products. That's fine.
Okay, so this is a tuning fork. Why? Because it's got tuned into it the 11 harmonic frequencies of our brain and each of our body's organs. And again, you can look up, anybody can go to Taneo Technology, and they can look up what are those frequencies. It's been measured. We know the measured, this is my mushroom cup, because I also take frequency tuned nootropics, mushrooms. Everything has frequency to it. Some of it low, some of it high. it's time for us to become more committed to doing the things that keep our energy high. So if my brain is tuned to its optimum frequency, if each of my body's organs is tuned, I may still, at times, based upon food I put into my body that lowers it, or a thought, or being in an environment where the energy is not as high as we would like it to be, I will come back that much faster if I've got myself tuned up. And up to now, to do that, we required going to doctors of frequency medicine. And I would still say that, if you can afford it, it's pretty pricey. There's not that many of them yet in the world. As Einstein predicted, in the future, all medicine will be the medicine of frequencies. And I'm going to insert here. Telecommunications companies, the people who make these, know more about frequency medicine than doctors do, because they had to learn about frequency in order to be able to get information from this to yours, to yours, to yours, all the towers, all the antennas. Now I probably sound like a conspiracy theorist. I'm not. It's factual. Anybody can look it up. So they know more about what the frequency range is of a body and what's happening to it. And I'm diverting for a moment, just a moment. Many people don't know that Steve Jobs, in his book and in most of his interviews, made statements that he would not allow his children to have access to his devices. Not because he was afraid they were going to break them, but because he knew the frequencies and what they would do to their brains and their bodies being that young. Until they were fully developed, he would not let them near his devices. And he created them.
So I'm not even going to argue at all, and I don't think it's conspiracy. What I want to make sure we do now is I want you to be completely full in telling me and all the audience, where do I find this information? What websites, what places do I go to find out for whatever it is that tunes up my body and life that's easier than the hard way, which you went on, and you said it's not as hard as it used to be. I do have to change some habits and practices and be willing to do XYZ, but tell me where to find this stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you the link because I have it all compiled. So how about that? Okay,
all
because
right.
I would like people to come to me for the information that I've compiled, and I'll drop it for you and you can share it with everybody here. Happy to do that. And what I'm going to say is it can be as simple as drinking a frequency charged mango lemonade, which is what I do every morning. Frequency charged. And right now, there's no other place that I have found that you can take frequency tuned nutrition into your body. You can put frequency tuned skincare on your body, and you can put frequency tuned, we'll call it jewelry. I call this just my tuning fork. Okay. Normally I don't have it with me here, but I have a straw that is frequency tuned. So whenever anything I drink through it raises my vibration. And the reason I want people to contact me is because I want to give you the access to the information from the frequency doctor, the doctor of frequency medicine, who's considered the premier researcher in the world about all of this. So good. I'm not going to make claims. I'm not going to make claims, and I'm not going to name the company because I want to stay compliant in every way, but I will give you the access to the information.
It's not a problem. I'm asking you, just in case people want to hear it, can you say what a place to go? Like, no, I want to look this up.
Because it has to be compliant. So I'm being compliant, legally compliant right now.
Great. All right. So you're going to give it to me, share it with me, and I can put it in the show notes or something.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I understand you're not making claims or anything, and no one's, let's be clear, no one's making any claims here. Stacey is telling us about her journey and all the things that have happened to her and the benefits and so forth, and inviting you to consider it for yourself, which is great. So Thank you, and we'll share the links that would in
Thank
the
you.
show notes. So what I want to know is, as we conclude here, tell me, was there something I forgot to ask you? Is there something about your journey that would serve the audience, to encourage them, to make them feel loved, uplifted, appreciated, that I didn't ask?
Okay. Well, I'm going to give it a little exercise. Whether you're in sales or not, if the person who's hearing me right now, if what you're looking at around you is not what you want, my advice is to stop dwelling on what you don't want. That what you do want is to be described. Write it down in full description. And make sure that as you're writing, you're not saying, I don't want. Because the more we say what we don't, we stay in that vibration. The more we say, this is how I want it to be. So let's imagine you want to be in a different living situation. Describe what that would look like. What would the neighborhood look like? What would the home look like? Who would be in that home with you? And it is telling a story. Write a story out as full as you possibly can. And then start to envision that as often as you possibly can, and catch yourself when you ever say that's not what you want. I am not the first person to tell people this. I won't be the last person to tell people this. But this is how we change the vibrational structure. As Einstein said, you must be at the vibration of the thing you want, not at the vibration of what you don't want. And here's the metaphor. If you want to see a Broadway show on Broadway in New York, and you're in San Diego, you might get a touring company coming to San Diego, but if you want to see the Broadway show on Broadway in New York, you have to get yourself on a plane and get to New York to go see it. It is exactly the same thing. And I'm not comparing San Diego and New York to what you don't want, what you do want. I'm saying that's an actual physical vibrational place. You can't be in one place and want to be in another place. I suppose you can, but you're not going to get there until you are at that vibration. And it doesn't just happen by, okay, I want to be in New York right now. No, it requires creating the story, envisioning it, trusting it will happen, watching for opportunities to get you closer, ever closer to that goal. And that is not crawling over glass. That is living in what we want to see happen and trusting it will.
Stacey, I want to thank you for being with us today. I appreciate everything you've shared. So thank you for sharing your story, sharing your conviction, and helping us understand how to visualize and create the kinds of things that we want.
Thank you so much for inviting me in. I feel very blessed, and I feel that I had the opportunity to take one more step towards what I promised God, that when my heart was healed, I would do everything in my power to help heal other people's hearts too.
Audience, whatever you're listening, however you're listening to this, if you're watching or listening, the idea of creating powerful visual imagery to raise your vibration is not new, but it works. The idea of being clear about what you want and describing it in detail is not new, but it works. And so the actions that you choose to take from this will determine how well and how quickly you are able to create your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellanFluckigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, YourUltimateLife.ca. Subscribe, share.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your